The price of underestimation. The Kilari Empire had ruled the Orion Arm for 10,000 years, their crystalline ships a testament to their technological superiority. When they discovered the human colony of Haven, they saw it as nothing more than another primitive settlement to catalog and dismiss. That was their first mistake. Haven was home to 30,000 souls, a thriving outpost on the edge of explored space. Its gardens produced exotic fruits that sold for premium prices in Earth's markets, and its laboratories housed some of humanity's most promising xenobiologists. The colony represented everything humanity had achieved in its brief century of interstellar expansion. The Kilari destroyed it in 17 minutes. Their official explanation called it a routine cleansing operation, standard protocol for unauthorized settlements in their space. They expected Earth to accept their explanation, perhaps even apologize for the transgression. After all, every other species had learned to bow before Kilari authority. What they didn't know was that humanity had been preparing for this moment since they first detected alien signals 2 centuries ago. Deep within the Sol system's asteroid belt, in underground lunar facilities, and in hidden shipyards scattered across 1,000 seemingly empty star systems, humanity had built its response to first contact gone wrong. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the ESS Harbinger, watching the holographic display of her fleet emerging from stealth. 700,000 ships, each one a masterpiece of human engineering and paranoia. The Kilari sensors were only now beginning to register the massive energy signatures. "Send the message," Chen ordered, her voice carrying the weight of Earth's unified response. The transmission was brief. "You mistook our patience for weakness, our restraint for limitation. Today, you learn the price of that error." Across Kilari space, their automated defense networks began detecting anomalies. Quantum signatures appeared where there should have been nothing but void. Human ships, previously invisible to their most sophisticated scanning systems, materialized like ghosts becoming solid. The Kilari High Command scrambled to make sense of the impossible data. Their strategic AI systems, the pride of their civilization, calculated and recalculated, trying to understand how they had missed such a massive military force. The humans were supposed to have only a few hundred ships, mostly short-range defense vessels. Instead, they faced an armada that dwarfed their own fleet. The first strike came not at their military installations or their shipyards, but at something far more precious: their pride. Human ships, moving with impossible precision, disabled the Kilari's prized atmospheric processors on their colony worlds. Each processor represented centuries of engineering, maintaining perfect environmental conditions for their crystalline biology. As alarms blared across their worlds, the Kilari finally began to understand. Humanity hadn't spent the last 2 centuries merely advancing their technology. They had been studying their potential adversaries, learning their weaknesses, and preparing countermeasures for every advantage the Kilari possessed. "Their defense fleet is moving to intercept," reported Commander Jackson, Chen's tactical officer. "Estimate 8 minutes until they're in range." Chen nodded, watching the crystalline ships approach. Beautiful and deadly, they had terrorized younger species for millennia. "Deploy the resonance weapons." The human fleet released millions of tiny drones, each carrying a device that had been specifically designed to exploit the crystalline nature of Kilari technology. The drones surrounded the approaching fleet, and with a synchronized pulse, began emitting precisely calculated frequencies. The effect was devastating. The crystal ships began to vibrate, their perfect structures developing microscopic fractures that spread like cracks in ice. The Kilari had never conceived that someone would turn their greatest strength into a weakness. As their fleet crumbled, the Kilari attempted to transmit their surrender. Admiral Chen received the message but didn't immediately respond. She thought of Haven's gardens, now reduced to radioactive glass, of the families who had built their dreams on that distant world, only to have them shattered by Kilari arrogance. "Your surrender is noted," she finally transmitted. "But this is not the end. This is your education beginning. Humanity is not like the other species you've encountered. We do not forget. We do not forgive. And we have only shown you the beginning of what we can do. The message sent ripples through the galaxy. Other species, long cowed by Kilari might, watched in stunned silence as humanity systematically dismantled the Empire's defenses. This was not mere revenge. It was a demonstration of power that had been carefully hidden, patiently developed, and precisely deployed. The price of underestimating humanity would be etched into galactic memory for millennia to come. And this was only the first day of the war. Operation Silent Thunder. The Kilari homeworld of Christos hung in space like a perfect jewel, its cities catching and refracting starlight in mesmerizing patterns. For millennia, it had been considered untouchable, protected by defenses that had turned away the most powerful species in known space. Now it faced something entirely different. Admiral Chen's fleet moved through the system like a dark tide, human ships appearing and disappearing as they exploited weaknesses in Kilari sensor technology that their makers hadn't known existed. The invasion plan had been developed decades before the Kilari had even encountered humanity, refined through countless simulations and war games. Multiple defensive platforms activating. Commander Jackson reported, his holographic displays tracking thousands of weapon systems coming online. They're adapting their shield frequencies based on what happened to their outer colonies. Chen allowed herself a small smile. Exactly as expected. Initiate Phase 2. Across the human fleet, special weapons systems powered up. Technology that had been developed in secret, tested in the dark spaces between stars. Each ship carried devices that had been specifically engineered to counter Kilari defensive measures, the result of years studying their every technological advancement. The first wave of attacks didn't come from the human ships at all. Instead, quantum viruses that had been seeded throughout Kilari networks years ago by seemingly innocent trading vessels suddenly activated. Their defensive grids began to flicker and fail, each backup system compromised before it could fully engage. The Kilari High Command, housed in their crystalline spire that pierced the upper atmosphere, watched in horror as their supposedly impregnable defenses crumbled. Their strategic air, the most advanced in known space, had been subtly corrupted, feeding them false data about human capabilities for years. Your arrogance was your weakness, Chen transmitted to the Kilari leadership. While you dismissed us as primitives, we studied every aspect of your civilization. Every strength you possessed became a vulnerability we could exploit. The Kilari's response was desperate and predictable. They launched their doomsday weapon, the Planet Breaker, a device capable of destroying entire solar systems. It had kept potential rivals in check for centuries, the ultimate deterrent against any who would challenge their dominion. The human fleet parted like water around a stone, letting the massive energy beam pass harmlessly through their formation. The Kilari watched in disbelief as their greatest weapon dissipated into nothing, absorbed by technological countermeasures they hadn't known were possible. Did you think we wouldn't prepare for that as well? Chen's voice carried across all frequencies. We've known about your Planet Breaker since before we made first contact. We've had decades to develop countermeasures. The truth began to dawn on the Kilari leadership. Humanity hadn't just built ships and weapons. They had created an entirely new form of warfare. Every human vessel carried technology specifically designed to counter Kilari advantages, every tactic precisely calculated to exploit their weaknesses. From the surface of Christos, the sky seemed to darken as human ships moved into precise orbital positions. The Kilari's orbital defense platforms, the product of thousands of years of engineering, were systematically disabled by weapons they had never seen before. Your civilization spans 10,000 years, Chen continued, her words broadcast across the planet. In that time, you've forgotten what it means to truly face an equal. You've forgotten the innovation that comes from genuine challenge, the strength that grows from real adversity. The human fleet's next action demonstrated this point with devastating clarity. Rather than bombarding the planet, they deployed millions of microscopic machines into the atmosphere. These nanites began systematically disassembling the Kilari's environmental processors at the molecular level, threatening to make their homeworld uninhabitable not through destruction, but through precise, calculated alteration. The Kilari Supreme Council, faced with the potential extinction of their species, finally understood the full scope of their miscalculation. Humanity hadn't just prepared for war. They had revolutionized it. Every aspect of human technology had been developed with one purpose: to ensure that no alien power could ever threaten Earth or its colonies with impunity. As their crystalline cities began to lose their luster, their atmospheres slowly becoming hostile to their biology, the Kilari transmitted their unconditional surrender. But Admiral Chen and the human fleet didn't immediately acknowledge it. They had learned from Haven that words alone meant nothing. The galaxy would need more than promises to ensure this lesson was never forgotten. The ripples of war. News of the Kilari Empire's imminent collapse spread through the galaxy like a shockwave. Species that had lived under their shadow for generations watched in stunned silence as humanity systematically dismantled the most powerful civilization known to exist. But in the Galactic Council chambers, panic was setting in. The Mernthi delegation, their bioluminescent forms pulsing with anxiety, called for immediate action. If the humans can do this to the Kilari, what's to stop them from targeting any of us? Their spokesperson's translator struggled to convey the full depth of their fear. But fear was rapidly giving way to something else: opportunity. The Archean Collective, ancient rivals of the Kilari, had already begun reaching out to Earth through back channels. Their quantum-encrypted messages carried offers of alliance, technology exchanges, and mutual defense pacts. Admiral Chen received these overtures aboard the ESS Harbinger with calculated interest. Humanity remembers its friends, she transmitted to the Archean representatives, just as thoroughly as it remembers its enemies. The implied threat within the promise was lost on no one. The war had evolved beyond mere military conflict. Every species in the galaxy was now forced to reevaluate their understanding of humanity. Archaeological teams were dispatched to Earth, seeking to understand how this supposedly young race had developed so quickly. What they found shook them to their core. Human history was a relentless chronicle of conflict and adaptation. While other species had evolved toward specialization, humans had maintained their adaptability. Where others sought perfection in a single approach, humanity had developed countless alternatives for every challenge. In the Carina sector, the Volsteri Trading Consortium made its bid for the future. Their automated factories began retooling, switching from crystal-based Kilari technology to human designs. It was a gamble that would either secure their position in the new order or mark them as the next target of Earth's expansive military. The humans aren't just fighting a war, observed Supreme Analyst Nenxithal of the Skitri Intelligence Network. They're rewriting the rules of galactic civilization. His analysis, shared across secure channels, highlighted an uncomfortable truth. Humanity had been preparing for this moment since before they left their home system. Back on Christos, the systematic dismantling of Kilari power continued. Human engineers, working with precision that belied their supposed primitive status, began the process of permanently altering the planet's atmosphere. The message was clear. The Kilari would survive, but only by human grace, and never again with the power to threaten Earth's interests. The Galactic Council, that ancient body that had maintained order for millennia, found itself facing obsolescence. Their laws and protocols, designed around Kilari supremacy, crumbled in the face of human innovation. Some members proposed accepting Earth as a full council member, hoping to bind humanity with bureaucracy where force had failed. Admiral Chen's response to their invitation was transmitted across all frequencies. Humanity does not require your permission to exist among the stars. We never did. Your council's authority was based on power you no longer possess and wisdom you never truly had. In the Outer Rim, where Earth's influence had always been strongest, colony worlds began declaring their independence from their former overlords. The Kilari's client species, sensing the change in the galactic wind, rushed to establish diplomatic relations with Earth. Each carried with them intelligence about their former masters, hoping to curry favor with humanity. The Archean collective's primary consciousness reached a startling conclusion. Humanity hadn't just been building ships and weapons. They had been constructing an entirely new galactic order. Every human colony, every trade agreement, every seemingly minor diplomatic contact had been part of a vast strategy. They learned from us all, the collective broadcast to its member minds. From the Killari's arrogance, from our own technological focus, from the Council's bureaucracy. They took those lessons and built something new. A power based not on age or tradition, but on innovation and adaptation. In Earth's solar system, shipyards that had remained hidden for generations began to emerge from their camouflage. The true scale of human military production became apparent. The 700,000 ships that had brought the Killari to their knees represented only a fraction of humanity's total strength. The galaxy was changing, and at its center stood a species that had turned their greatest weakness, their short history among the stars, into their greatest strength. They had entered the galactic stage not as supplicants seeking acceptance, but as architects of a new order. Admiral Chen stood on the observation deck of the Harbinger, watching as Crystallos's atmosphere shifted colors, the process of transformation well underway. "Send word to Earth," she ordered. "Phase 3 can begin." The ripples of war were about to become a tide that would reshape the galaxy forever. Breaking point. Deep within the Killari homeworld's crystalline spires, a desperate plan was taking shape. The High Command, their once perfect forms now showing signs of stress from the changing atmosphere, had activated protocols hidden for millennia. Beneath the surface of Crystallos, ancient weapons stirred to life, the last resort of a civilization facing extinction. Admiral Chen received the intelligence report with characteristic calm. "They're accessing the Void Archives," she noted, sharing a meaningful look with her command staff. This development wasn't unexpected. Humanity's intelligence networks had discovered the existence of these weapons long ago. The Void Archives represented the darkest secrets of Killari technology, weapons so devastating they had been sealed away out of fear of their power. The Killari believed these weapons would be their salvation. They were wrong. "Interesting," Chen mused, watching the energy readings spike across her tactical display. "They think we didn't know about their contingency plans." She opened a channel to the fleet. "All ships, initiate Prometheus Protocol." Across the human armada, previously dormant systems activated. Each vessel's hull began to shimmer with a field that had never been revealed to any alien race. The technology was the product of decades of research, reverse-engineered from fragments of ancient weapons found in Earth's solar system. The Killari's secret weapons emerged from their millennia-long slumber, massive constructs that bent reality itself, capable of unmaking entire star systems. As they rose from beneath the surface of Crystallos, the remaining Killari forces rallied around them, preparing for one final desperate stand. "Their hubris remains intact," Chen observed. "Even now, they believe their ancient weapons give them an advantage." She nodded to her tactical officer. "Show them why that assumption is fatal." The human fleet's response revealed the true depth of Earth's preparation. Each ship projected fields that twisted space itself, creating corridors of altered physics that rendered the Killari's reality-bending weapons useless. Humanity hadn't just prepared for known threats. They had anticipated and developed countermeasures for weapons that hadn't been used in thousands of years. The Killari High Command watched in horror as their final hope dissolved before their eyes. The weapons that had once terrorized galaxies couldn't penetrate the human fleet's defenses. Worse, the energy they were expending was accelerating the transformation of their atmosphere. "Did you think," Chen's transmission cut through their despair, "that we discovered spaceflight by accident? That our world just happened to have the exact conditions needed to develop our technology?" She paused, letting the implications sink in. Earth was seeded with fragments of ancient weapons millennia ago. We didn't just develop our technology. We inherited it, studied it, and improved upon it. The revelation sent shockwaves through the watching galaxy. Humanity's rapid advancement hadn't been just the product of innovation and preparation. They had found the pieces of a cosmic puzzle scattered across their solar system and spent generations solving it in secret. The void weapons, now fully deployed but completely ineffective, began to deteriorate. The human fleet's defense fields weren't just blocking their effects. They were actively unraveling the ancient technology. Centuries of Kilari superiority crumbled in hours. From their hidden observation posts, representatives of every major galactic power watched the display with growing understanding. Humanity hadn't just defeated the Kilari. They had comprehensively outmaneuvered them on every level. Military strength, technological advancement, strategic planning, all had been carefully orchestrated for this moment. Your civilization spent 10,000 years perfecting what you already had. Chen continued, her words broadcast across all frequencies. Humanity spent its time learning, adapting, and preparing for everything we might face. Your strength was in your stability. Ours is in our constant evolution. The Kilari's last defense was failing. Their mighty weapons, the terror of ancient galaxies, were being systematically dismantled by human technology. The crystalline cities of their homeworld, once eternal and unchanging, continued their slow transformation under the influence of human nanites. Admiral Chen stood on her bridge, watching as the last void weapon collapsed in on itself. "Send word to Earth," she ordered. "The final phase can begin." The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's victory over the Kilari wasn't the end of their plans. It was merely the beginning. Across known space, hidden human assets began to activate. Sleeper agents embedded in every major civilization started transmitting data back to Earth. The true scope of human preparation was finally becoming clear, and the galaxy would never be the same. New Dawn. 1 month after the fall of the Kilari Empire, representatives from every spacefaring civilization gathered in Earth's orbit. The location itself was a statement. No alien delegation had ever been permitted this close to humanity's homeworld before. As their ships approached, they witnessed firsthand the true extent of human preparation. Massive shipyards emerged from dimensional pockets around Jupiter. Defense platforms larger than cities decloaked near Mars. The Sol system wasn't just humanity's cradle. It was the most heavily fortified location in known space, its defenses hidden in plain sight for generations. Admiral Chen stood in the grand chamber of the ESS Harbinger, now serving as a neutral ground for the galaxy's first true summit. The ship's transparent walls offered a clear view of Earth below, a beautiful blue jewel that had birthed a civilization powerful enough to reshape the galaxy. For centuries, Chen began, addressing the assembled delegates. The galaxy operated under the assumption that age equals wisdom. That time alone confers the right to rule. She gestured to the Kilari representatives, their crystalline forms now adapted to their transformed homeworld. That assumption nearly led to our extinction. We chose a different path. Holographic displays activated around the chamber, showing the full scope of human advancement. Secret research stations in dark matter clouds, quantum laboratories hidden between moments of time, and factories that bent reality itself to forge impossible materials. Humanity hadn't just prepared for war. They had revolutionized their understanding of the universe itself. The fragments of ancient technology we found in our solar system taught us one crucial lesson. Chen continued. Power without wisdom leads to stagnation. The Kilari and their contemporaries found their perfect forms and stopped evolving. Humanity chose to never stop growing. The Arctian Collective's representatives pulsed with realization. The humans hadn't defeated the Kilari through superior firepower alone. They had fundamentally understood something about civilization that the older races had forgotten. Today, we offer a choice, Chen announced. Continue as you have, clinging to old hierarchies and ancient prejudices, or join us in building something new. Earth does not seek to rule the galaxy. We seek to awaken it. The human proposal was unprecedented. They offered to share their technological advancements, their understanding of dimensional engineering, their breakthroughs in evolutionary science. But there were conditions, strict ones. No species would be permitted to stagnate. Innovation and adaptation would be mandatory. The strong would be required to help elevate the weak. From the ashes of the Killari Empire, a new galactic order was emerging. Not one built on age or tradition, but on the principles that had allowed humanity to achieve the impossible: curiosity, adaptation, and the drive to constantly improve. The Mernthi were the first to accept, their bioluminescence pulsing with excitement at the possibilities. Others followed, some eagerly, some reluctantly, but all understanding that the galaxy had changed irrevocably. The Killari, humbled but not destroyed, found themselves learning what humanity had known all along. True strength lies not in perfection, but in the ability to change and grow. On Haven's restored surface, a memorial stood where the colony had once thrived. But it wasn't a monument to destruction or revenge. Instead, it celebrated the moment humanity had revealed its true nature to the galaxy, not as conquerors, but as catalysts for change. Admiral Chen made one final transmission to Earth's leadership. Phase 0 is complete. The galaxy is ready for what comes next. She looked out at the assembled fleet, ships from 100 civilizations, now working together under humanity's guidance. We've shown them that the universe is not a place for stagnation. Now we show them what real evolution looks like. In the depths of space, beyond the edge of known territory, automated human probes had already made contact with something ancient and powerful. Something that would test not just humanity, but the entire galaxy's new unity and adaptability. The real challenge was just beginning. But this time, the galaxy would face it together, guided by the species that had turned their greatest disadvantage, their youth, into the force that had reshaped civilization itself. Earth's message to the galaxy was clear. The age of stagnation was over. The era of eternal growth had begun, and humanity would lead the way into this uncertain but promising future, not through dominance, but through the same qualities that had allowed them to overcome the Killari: innovation, adaptation, and the unwavering desire to become something more than they were. The stars themselves seemed to shine brighter, as if acknowledging the dawn of a new age in galactic history. An age where the question was no longer about who had the right to rule, but who had the courage to change. Humanity had answered that question definitively, and in doing so, had changed the destiny of every species in the galaxy.